Okay, so when we were doing the pre-production for the album, before I went up to Greg's studio in order to track the bass, we did go through some ideas and different pedals and different sounds that we might want to attempt to use. And so I went through about a good dozen, particularly older Japanese things. Frontline super distortion, just in case we wanted to go for that scum bass sound. But we whittled it down to about 6, and so I took those up to the studio and we worked through. What we decided on in the end was kind of a bi-amp setup where we've got the high end and the low end kind of split. So this is now my pre-production board, which is essentially what we use. The only difference being this is the Amp Tweaker Type Metal bass, which is fantastic. I've used that for every show I've ever done with VALLENFYRE. It was designed by the guy that actually designed the 5150 amps, and lesser known, but the VTMs that Peavy did, really great stuff. A guy called James Brown. And for bass distortion, as opposed to using a guitar distortion pedal, you can actually really maintain the bass response because you've got just on the side a low dry, so you can actually, essentially what I'm attempting to doing with this entire rig, I could do with just this pedal. Anyway, moving on to Strigoi. So this would essentially be covering my top end. The Big Muff Deluxe is A, simply because you've got the low pass filter and the high pass filter. You can really tie that in with the frequencies you need to hit, because there are so many things going on with the guitars that we really needed to try and find the frequency spots to pop through. But of course, then using the higher end of the bass spectrum, we needed to make sure that we still had that bottom. And this is where the new Dark Glass comes in. Simply because I've been a SansAmp guy forever, but this again is so tweakable that again we could really find those frequencies. So how this is going to run, this goes to my onstage amp, which is an Ampeg SVT7, and then through the Palmer signal splitter, which is active. Other good thing about these, if you're running a lot of distortion or you're running it in tandem, you can come up with some phasing issues. These are fantastic. We did use a radial in the studio, but it was a little bit overkill for this, so the Palmer's are ace. So this will go to front of house and this will go on stage, so then I'll also hear this in my monitors, which means in between my amp on stage and where I am in the monitoring scenario, I can pick where my sound would be as well, because I like to be able to really hear what I'm doing. So yeah, I tend to make my own boards because then they fit well in my Pelly. The other thing about pedal boards is if you have too much space left over, you're going to find another pedal to want to go in there. So I like to try to keep things very simple and very neat. And so this is where we'll be for live. But I suppose the secret sauce of the record would be the Marshall jackhammer of all things. This was Greg's idea. He's always used these for the bass for VALLENFYRE, and I was a bit dubious. I think this is Marshall's take on the Metal Zone, but absolutely amazing pedals, and you can pick them up for next to nothing. So the only problem and the reason why this isn't on the board at the moment is because of the background noise, because even though the Big Muff does have a built-in noise gate, it's not intuitive enough. So again, I'm staying with the Amp Tweaker because that's got a really great subtle noise gate built in as well. So you can keep the noise, the background noise down, while still having all out, balls to the wall chaos and distortion. So essentially, yeah, that's what we used to record the bass for the album. Oh, I should mention, use my VALLENFYRE bass, so that Japanese Jackson that people might have seen me using, with lace sensor Alumitone pickups. To my mind, I think for the style of music that we're doing, they are by far and away the best passive pickups that you can buy without compromising that active side So those guys have always been very, very helpful to me as well. Big thanks to Dark Glass as well. They've been very, very supportive. And of course, James at Amp Tweaker.